Alright, it's been a really long time since I covered my Kadota fig series, and as you can see I have all my plants in the background, and at the time everything looked pretty healthy. So this was in 2022. It's now the end of April 2023 when I'm narrating this very long episode, and you can see me pruning away some of these dead leaves, or just rather fishing them out and throwing them away. So the fig does shed some leaves as it grows new ones, and it has like perfectly healthy looking foliage. And in the beginning it was all like that, it seemed, but it does always kind of seem to be in a process of replacing some of the older leaves. Maybe I'm just not providing enough nitrogen or the nutrients, but it's healthy enough. The foliage in general for this plant is it's a real champ. It doesn't seem to have predation by bugs. The mango has things attacking. The snails are not interested in eating this stuff, and I have plenty of snail and slug footage from later on when it became very wet during the rainy season in this Mediterranean climate. I live in San Diego, California. So doing some maintenance here, just pruning things away. Everything for the most part looks healthy. And as you can see, I have figs. So I've had this plant at that point for about, let's see, maybe like 5 or 6 months. So that's pretty good, to get a harvest or potentially a harvest in just 5 months. I believe at the 4 month mark, I already saw like fruit primordia, and 5+ months later, here we are. So the fruits look really robust, but they're not particularly big, and I don't imagine that the first fruits will taste that good. So I just take it for granted that that's what's going to happen, and maybe I'll get surprised here. But as you can see, there's a strand of webbing, but there's really nothing that indicates unhealthiness for this plant. And you still got new shoots, new leaves growing, so it's a beautiful plant, but it does have problems supporting itself, and I think that's because it was grown from cutting, and all cuttings do this. So my mango, Alfonso mango, it has the same problem. It can't stand on its own. It doesn't matter how thick and robust and strong these stems look like. So for this plant, grown from a cutting, everything just, as soon as it gets past a certain length, it just droops over. So it's just growing out in all directions. It resembles nothing like what you would see grown from a tree. And cuttings, they need to be tied to stakes, and they need a lot of micromanagement to stay upright. It's very frustrating. So, yeah, that's what the deal is for all of these things grown from cuttings. And yeah, my papaya, which you saw earlier, it just grows straight up. So yeah, I was wearing those farmer defense sleeves, and I was advertising, hawking their wares for a few episodes, but I guess none of my regular viewers, or just my viewers in general, are, they're not likely to be buying stuff like that. I didn't make a single sale, so just kind of gave up on that. It seemed like, yeah, I had a cordial relationship with Farmers Defense, but it wasn't generating any revenue for me, commissions. But I couldn't really tell based on emails whether they ever like confirmed to get any business from me. So here I'm cutting one of these Kadota figs, and you can see the Farmer's Defense sleeve too that I'm wearing. And yeah, this milky sap is running out, and I don't know, just based on my knowledge of milky sap, I just tend to think that's poisonous. But if that were the case, I would have read about it. So my only thought here was that I harvested it too early. And you can see here that this thing is all rind, and it's got a lot of pulp in there, but it looks so dry. It just looks completely unappetizing. It looks like, yeah, if you just washed away the sap and let it sit, on your desk, cut open like that, it'd make, for an interesting conversation starter. But that's all it is. It's all rind and no pulp or juice. I guess the sap, that goes away when a fig is really ripe. So this thing is completely unripe. There hasn't been enough foliar growth and time for this thing to go from like a very tiny, modest cutting to producing like juicy figs. And yeah, this thing is just wedging underneath my fingernail, and it's totally not worth eating. So yeah, kind of disappointing, but at the same time, what did I really expect? After just 5 months, I was lucky to get fruit at all. That's how I felt. And I just keep pressing the issue here, digging and digging, and there's really nothing juicy. So I think this is unripe, and maybe if it was given a long enough time, something could have happened. But at the same time, I think my Kadota fig cutting, my plant was just stretched too thin. There were too many fruits, and just not enough time and development and foliage to generate enough sugars through photosynthesis to create nice big ripe juicy fruits. So yeah, I mean, you're just watching me dig here, but yeah, I mean, it's a lost cause. It's pretty nasty, very unappetizing, just all fiber. So it's day 189. It's time for me to apply Bayer Biovance 3-in-1 insect, disease, and mite control. I'm using my backpack sprayer. So yeah, before I moved here and had access to hoses in the front and backyards, this thing was the best I could do in that like cobweb laden, spider infested apartment that had the big balcony, and I used this to water. And yeah, those were some unpleasant days. It's like it was very cramped, and yeah, it was like I had a garage, but when I had to do basically yoga like Dawson from Street Fighter to get in and out, and I would ding the wall paint onto my doors, car doors. So I used this backpack sprayer back then to after I got rid of all the cobwebs like every week or two to wash off my plants. They would just be covered in crap all the time and webs. So now that I don't need need this for that purpose anymore for washing things or watering plants, I'm just using it to, basically apply pesticide, which is what I'm doing here. So I'm just spraying. This stuff is not very potent, which is why I use it. Like things that they sell in your average big box store these days, in terms of pesticides, they're a lot weaker than stuff from the 2000s even, or the 2010s. When I started gardening and I started this channel, like around I believe I bought my first point and shoot camera probably around 2011 December, something like that. And then I started shooting videos, and it wasn't until 2013 when March when I started my honeydew series and moved on to ginger. And so it's been 10 years, and you can see here this fruit looks ripe. But I don't think I ended up trying that because it just seemed like sort of on the ground and nasty and rotten. But it was very soft and squishy. I think, in hindsight, maybe it was a mistake to not try that. But yeah, it's day 209, and my fig is losing a lot of leaves. They're going yellow. So I figured this is some sort of dormancy that's just natural. And I don't see any intrinsic signs of like massive rot or anything or problems. I think this cocoa coir has proven to be a great growing medium. And yeah, it's like nothing is perfect, but this is seemingly giving me way better results than sand and clay soil mixtures. which are also very hard to acquire, very heavy, very labor intensive to use as growing mediums. But uh, you know how these pots have blown over during windstorms, during the rainy season. I think I've already covered that in some of my other uh, episode updates for the other plant growing series. So if I had filled these pots with sand and dirt, then they would never blow over. But because cocoa coir is so airy and light, typically when a plant with high water usage, such as this one, drinks all the water out of the cocoa coir, then if there's like a windstorm, rainstorm, then strong gusts of winds can just blow everything over. Not this fig, just because of the way it's shaped and everything is kind of low to the ground, but definitely for the other plants, such as the papaya, the ice cream bean. Yeah, that one's a cutting too, and it struggled mightily. And then I've had to prune it for it to choose a more upright path. But that thing just kept blowing over as being really annoying, and its water usage is insane. So I think I watched a YouTube video a long time ago when I started this series, which was talking about how to tell if your Kadota figs are ripe, and I forgot, but I don't think there was a description of the bottoms being red. So yeah, like whatever signs I got from those videos, like didn't really hold up. And then this thing is like pretty soft. It's got that pink bottom. Maybe that will be good. So I've got my harvest of figs. The rest are just too small and immature, so I'm not going to touch them, just in the off chance that this plant can keep on going. You can see a fig to the left there on the longest branch. So yeah, that was the original branch that was growing mostly upright in the beginning when I got this cutting on the last day of April 2022. So yeah, this thing never blows over, it just doesn't fall over, which is one of its virtues. But as you can see, the foliage is all being shed off. So I expect these branches going in all directions to be completely denuded very soon, because the weather is getting colder, and perhaps this fig originates from a region where it's supposed to get more heat, or maybe this is just what happens everywhere. I think this is a common sight for fig owners. So I'm watering like this, and it's quite difficult to tell how saturated the cocoa coir is just by doing this. So I tend to go for a long time, because if I don't, then we get a few days of sun, and then it all dries out, and then in extreme cases, like my plants can just be wilting from lack of turgor pressure, lack of watering. So this hose wand from Lowe's with like this shower function, it's really great. I get to wash all the leaves. It's like taking a shower for my plants, and it waters at a very heavy flow rate. So yeah, that advertising. Oh well, this one has milky sap again. Not a good sign. And let's cut this one open. So first I'm washing off my knife, because I don't want to slice right through it with milky sap all over it. So in my mind, milky sap is always associated with things like milkweed, euphorbia. Just it's toxic. You're not supposed to eat that. But yeah, that was a bust. It was all rind. Maybe the development of the fruit is such that in the beginning, when it's unripe, it's all rind, and then that all gets converted. New space gets added, and yeah, it gets converted into sweet fruit pulp. Or is this just a hallmark of a plant that got too late of a start in the growing season and just didn't have enough foliage and sunlight photosynthesis going on to produce your typical sweet fruits that are juicy, low on rind, and high in pulp and juice? So this is really, really disappointing. It's just like the same story over and over again. Very annoying, just like a total loss here. And this one is disgustingly squishy. Let me try that. So, lo and behold, it's juicy. That looks pretty appetizing, actually. But I had milky sap on my knife right when I sliced through the whole thing. So it should be okay. And I'm just getting a spoon to see what this tastes like. And it was surprisingly just pretty high caliber. It wasn't like the most amazing thing, but it was good. So it seemed like it was rotten to the touch. So now that I know, I'm only going to harvest or eat these ones that feel like squishy and maggot infested or whatever. You'd expect something like that to be rotten or have worms in it. And here we're looking at this amazing jelly, basically. It tastes like a sort of natural jam or jelly, and it's very interesting. I'd say that's comparable, or almost comparable to a lot of the supermarket fruits that you would have access to. And it's a real pity that the rest were just a bunch of bums. They just look like it's just all rind. They're just a bunch of nothing burgers. It's just all rind and no pulp. So it's day 237. My fig plant has gone dormant. That one just looks rotten. Okay, that's moldy. I'm not going to eat that. And it's just a bunch of sticks radiating out radially in all directions. But as soon as these things get like even less than a foot long, they just droop over. So yeah, that one looks nasty. I'm not going to touch it. And a few leaves have been retained, but it's really like I don't know. Maybe that's just the bare minimum the plant needs to provide energy and keep going throughout winter. But we'll see if it loses more leaves. And I don't know what that is. That looks like some kind of pupae or like something from a bird, either a dropping or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, we still got some little figs sticking out, but I don't think those are going to develop. I mean, I might as well do the plant a favor and knock them off, but I didn't end up doing that. I was just very low maintenance outside of like for aesthetic reasons, fishing out and plucking away, throwing away some of those leaves. I did my usual watering, but during the winter, I didn't really even need to do that. You can see a fig on the ground there, and that's potentially just overripe or rotten as well. So yeah, there's been production. Within just like 6 months, I had something to eat. It's pretty amazing. So this series is already a success, and I'm expecting a lot more in 2023. So at the time I'm narrating all of this, it's almost May in 2023, almost. So I think this is a plant that produces an abundant fall harvest. So we're only a few months away from getting a nice crop again. And that just speaks to how much time has elapsed before I did an update. But these cracks in these cement panels in my front yard have accumulated all sorts of debris and detritus, and yeah, some figs are there. On day 252, you have this moldy fig. That was the one that was already moldy that I showed you earlier and didn't want to touch because it was moldy. So you can see, yeah, there's still like a minimum number of leaves that haven't been shed. So that's pretty good because I was starting to get worried about the plant. I knew that it was highly likely that it was just entering dormancy, and that's natural for cold weather months for this Kadota fig. So yeah, getting back to the advertising, I mean, I just going with the standard Google AdSense, YouTube ad revenue. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give up. I only had that one attempt at I don't know if you call that being sponsored, but basically like hawking some businesses' wares for sale, and I don't know, unless I get an offer to do something else. I mean, I could try sponsored videos, which is what I thought of in the first place. And yeah, this is day 261. This winter has been a wet one. My front yard is beset by snails and slugs, and people, elitists and online forums are already complaining about how all the Instagram influencers are going to go out and trample the California poppies in the upcoming super bloom. But actually, we never got the super bloom that we expected. Lake Elsinore, which is one of the prime spots in Southern California for California poppy viewing, they just shut it all down, and they advertised on the media and told everyone to stay out. And they wouldn't let anyone park on the side of the streets anywhere. So it's very disappointing. But yeah, this super bloom season, it just couldn't compare to 2019, which I have some videos from. And when I look back at pictures and videos I shot from then, it's just the flower density is just like off the charts compared to what happened later on in 2023. So you can see I have an infestation of snails and slugs, and it keeps raining. So yeah, I started seeing slugs, which I hadn't seen before. Their predation is actually quite significant because at night they sneak out when you're asleep and you don't want to go outside and it's all cold and wet, and then they just eat all your plants, especially new shoots, new growth just gets massacred by these things. And you know, it wasn't until maybe late April 2023, you know, which is pretty much the time I'm narrating this, that the snail and slug attacks kind of abated. So I've been scattering iron phosphate pellets everywhere to, you know, poison them. That doesn't affect mammals, birds, so or lizards or whatever. So it only seems to affect snails and slugs, which is great. Very specific and non-toxic. Provides iron, and it's a phosphorus source that hopefully my plants can use as well. But yeah, the heavy rains would always dissolve that stuff and wash it away, and then dozens and dozens, or maybe who knows how many slugs and snails come per night. You know, it could be hundreds. It's just that maybe I'm only seeing 6 or 7 at a time, but there's actually like hundreds out there in the woodwork, just living a covert lifestyle and just destroying all my plants. So it's day 313. After 2 to 3 months of dormancy, the fig bush sprouted new leaves. So what a sight for sore eyes. I've dealt with, oh, you can see the shadow there. I got a gimbal for Christmas, and I started using that. So the footage is more stable. I'm thinking of upgrading my phone. It's already 4 years old, but it's a Samsung S10. The video quality is superb, even to this day. And I took a lot of amazing pictures and videos with this cell phone. So yeah, the days of point and shoot cameras are long gone. And many cycles ago, I stopped buying them, and I just used my cell phones. An early adapter of the 4K trend for high quality video footage. And then when 60 frames per second came out for 4K video capable cameras, I would just, or cell phones, I would just go for that. And yeah, so I was an early adapter, and after all these years, I mean, there's still very little 4K content, and there's just still not the internet infrastructure, the bandwidth for everyone to be streaming 4K or even 2K. So after all these years, you know, yeah, a lot of the 4K footage is just for my private enjoyment, actually, and making these YouTube videos and my memories. And then, yeah, actually, I don't even think the vast majority of people who watch my channel like ever turn it up to 4K, because you know, they'd soon be getting throttled by their internet service providers. So yeah, the new foliage is beautiful. It's a really welcome sight. I'm sure this thing is going to explode with leaves very soon. So it's day 318. So the super bloom didn't live up to the hype in 2023, but the slug boom, the snail boom, has surpassed anything I've ever seen. And this rainy season has been very abundant in rain and just very um, prolonged. Usually, Southern California is hot and dry already by this time. And yeah, this snail is just kind of chugging along here. There were so many that day, just kind of lost count. And I've never seen these before. So this is some other kind of snail. I have no idea what these species are. I looked at a list of local San Diego snails and slugs, and yeah, as you know, I'm not a big fan of these vile creatures. Yeah, they carry like hemorrhagic viral fevers and things like that, and they're just disease ridden, and more importantly, they just kill all my plants. They eat all the new shoots. I've lost a lot of new shoots, and I've started a new growing series, but I haven't posted an update yet, but I soon will. But yeah, these snails and slugs ate a lot of those later because when the sun actually comes out during this miserable time of year, in terms of the weather, I could see all these slime trails left behind. And then the it was almost like the new shoots had been mowed down, and there were just flat stubs of green sticking out of the cocoa coir. So yeah, I knew who the culprits were, and the birds, they're clearly not doing a good job of eating these things, and yeah, they just don't have enough interested natural predators. So it's day 328, and as you can see, the foliage just looks amazing. So that's what I love about this Kadota fig. I think that's one remark from a YouTuber that I watched. I do watch some other plant growing channels as well, although maybe it's not as much as all of you do, because yeah, I mean, I make my own content, I grow my own, tend to my own plants, and yeah, this doesn't leave me with a lot of time to just be watching everyone else's plant growing channels. But yeah, this foliage, just emerald green or whatever you want to call it, and the leaves are waxy and shiny, and everything looks so perfect. It's not until the leaves are dying that you can kind of see a big one there, that or two, that they lose their luster. So yeah, it's like regarding the whole advertising, yeah, I mean, the channel kind of really fell off after all the millennials jumped on this ship in the beginning of the pandemic, 2020. And the first half of 2020 was a really good time. And, well, there was a dog that's in the neighbor's yard that just kind of sneaks up on me when I'm filming close to the fence and just starts yapping. It always startles me. So yeah, you can see some fruit primordia from 2022. They're going nowhere. I should just like flick all that stuff off or just rip it off and let the plant grow a lot of foliage and restart. I don't think any of those fruit primordia are going to go anywhere. So yeah, I was saying before, it's like maybe one of those sponsored videos where I talk about a product and they just like pay me up front. Maybe that would work. But yeah, at this point, my YouTube channel, I mean, it only makes a shadow of what it once did in its heyday, like 3 years ago. So, I mean, it's more for my own entertainment, and I just like to document things. And yeah, I mean, I might try to grow some other things. I've been growing all these like fruit trees, which is what people are mostly interested in. I do kind of regret, since the reception for the Joshua tree series has been really good. I mean, not in terms of like volume of viewers, but the people that are passionate about that. We have what they call a volunteer here. This is like this little red leaved plant. I'm just gonna leave it alone because I like the color of the foliage. But yeah, it's yeah, I'm doing this as much for myself as I am for the viewership, and the ad revenue is like completely inconsequential at this point, especially with our closest brush with hyperinflation. So yeah, the foliage is really coming back, and I do expect a harvest. And since it's already April at this point, at this clip, yeah, things are on pace. I think it's getting heavy with foliage. Everything's sagging, and it won't be that long until I get another harvest. Probably just like 3, 4, 5 months. I'll be getting a lot of figs, and hopefully they'll be good. And I don't know if I'm gonna keep this because like now with the cocoa choir and having full sun. So yeah, that's my new plant growing series. Try to guess what it is. I bet most people won't be able to guess, but yeah, this is a series more for aesthetics. That's a big clue rather than just fruit. It seems like people really love watching fruit tree growing videos. But yeah, there is like kind of a minor cult following for the Joshua Tree series, and as I was saying, I kind of regret not growing more cacti because those are small and compact. They won't blow over. They're tough. Nothing eats them. So they've got built-in snail and slug resistance. It's not like there's any wood rats or, bighorn sheep around here that are going to eat them. So, and even those things, I don't think will eat a Joshua tree, but maybe things like a Troya or barrel cacti. Yeah, so maybe I should have started a lot of cacti series many years ago because those things grow slow as molasses, grow at a glacial pace, and it just would have really paid off to have grown some from seed way back when. I tried growing the saguaro cacti, and that didn't take, but I heard those grow much slower than Joshua trees, so that would kind of be boring to watch, so maybe I just have to have like a million series going in small pots, but yeah, it does take a lot of time to film all this stuff and keep track, so I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this fig past this second harvest because I've already shown the entire life cycle from a cutting point of view, and yeah, if I get some good fruits and enjoy it, I mean, I could just keep it around for the food value. I think that's just for a personal benefit, but it wouldn't really be adding much to the channel to just keep this sprawling plant that will undoubtedly get much, much bigger and then just, be running the same content over and over again. So, yeah, I might buy some new cuttings or just grow some new things from seeds, change it up a little bit. But yeah, I can't have too many series going at the same time because it just takes way too much time to make these long form content videos. So yeah, that's the very long update on my Kadota fig cutting. You can see how it's sprawling out everywhere. The leaves are dark green. And 5 months later, I'm applying some more of that Bayer BioAdvanced 3-in-1. And that's just to keep my plants healthy and pest-free from fungi, insect pests. I'm not even sure it will do anything against the snails, but I got iron phosphate pellets for that. So thanks a lot for watching this long update, and please stay tuned to my YouTube channel for further updates.